The biggest cost of opportunity could be, it probably is, some of the things that you're putting off. Look back in your business. Have you ever come to a point, a conclusion where you want to do something? It's maybe hiring that salesperson. Maybe you're doing all your own sales at the minute, and you've been delaying, like even putting out that post on LinkedIn or a job advert for a salesperson. Maybe it's something like to do with lead generation. You've been thinking about adding like some sort of a lead generation into your business, and maybe you've tried a couple of things in the past and they haven't worked, and then you delay it, and yet you still know that you need to have consistent leads coming in for you to call up. Why do we do this? Why do we do this? Would you say it's self-sabotage? Would you? Or would you put it down to, what do you put it down to? In fact, write it down. What do you put this down to? Your delaying. Now, it's probably something to do with your subconscious conditioning. Now, here's the thing. We have behavior traits. We have character traits. They don't just come from nowhere, right? You're a character of some sort, and you have certain traits, the way you operate, the way you move, the way you interact with your customers, the way you take action around your business, right? And these come from your unconscious, your subconscious, in fact, your subconscious image of the type of a person that you are. And the biggest opportunity, like think about it right now. What is the one thing that you've been thinking about implementing into your business? Maybe this is hiring some new staff. Maybe this is actually firing some staff. What is that one thing that you keep on thinking about over and over again, right? Keeps on circulating in your mind over and over again. It consumes you, and yet you haven't acted on that. Now, this could be like maybe relocating, maybe having a refurb, maybe buying that new equipment, maybe going on some certain training, maybe hiring a coach or mentor to help you scale your business, maybe having a whole marketing campaign putting out there, maybe like doing some direct mail campaign. I'll give you an example. So for quite some time, I've been thinking, like, before the internet was around, how did people build businesses? It was all offline, right? Because it was like direct mail, it's advertising. Nowadays, there's not many places for you to advertise in a newspaper, in a magazine, because most of the stuff's online. So I've been thinking about, probably for a couple of years, right? So this is an insight that I had to myself, thinking there's an opportunity there, and I haven't sort of acted on it. So one thing I'd really want to do is implement like direct mail. I've tried it in the past and not really effectively, because when you're doing a direct mail campaign, it's more than just sending out something in the post, some brochures. It's more than that. There's so many different layers that goes. You got to do follow-ups. You got to get data. You got to get the right data. You got to have your message who you're trying to target, location. So I thought that's a great opportunity for me, and I've been actually not giving it any attention. It's been on my mind. I would say maybe the direct mail campaign side of things comes onto my mind probably once every 2 weeks or once a week. And this morning I was going to record a podcast. I thought, what's a good topic? I thought that's a great topic, and let's dive into why I haven't actually taken action on that. And I'm an action taker. We take action. So I was diving in, well, why haven't we done that? Why? Because simply we haven't really sat down, right? It's an opportunity that we're missing. We haven't really sat down together as a team and actually mapped this out. So the ideas in my mind, how many ideas do you have in your mind that they stay in your mind? They never get put down on paper. There's some scientific research that says, like, when you take an idea and you write it down on a piece of paper, the chances of you actually achieving what you're writing down is far greater. Now, we all have ideas. As we're driving along, we get a good idea. There's another idea. Now, how many ideas do you forget on a day-to-day basis, right? So these ideas, unless you write them down, guess what? You end up forgetting them anyway. But for this example that I'm giving you, the direct mail campaign that I want to put out there is something now that today I will sit down and I'll get my pen and paper out, even if it's on my own. I'll make a list. I'll make a point of, like, what's the intention of this campaign? Who is it targeted at? What location? Is it a certain niche? What's the message on there? When do I want to get it out by? Some accountability, right? Then I'll speak to my team about it, and then we'll put it together and start taking action. So just that, me writing it down, mapping it all out, having a plan, it's got so much more chance of going live versus it being in my mind. Do you get where I'm coming from? So I want you to think about some of the things that you've been having processing in your mind you haven't acted on. Why is that happening? Because you haven't taken action. Action's super important, right? Unless you take any action, there is going to be no reaction. There's going to be no change in your outside world. So let's dive into what's your biggest missed opportunity because you haven't taken freaking action. Why haven't you taken action? So I want you to write down one thing that's been on your mind for quite some time that you've been wanting to do. And then this might be recording a webinar. Maybe you're running an online business and you don't have a way of getting consistent clients. All you're doing is doing outreach out. No, you're not even doing any outreach. You're expecting people to come into you like inbound leads. And yet you've got no business if you're just relying on inbound leads, because guess what? You don't get any leads coming in, you've got no business. So what about putting together some sort of maybe an online webinar? This might be an in-person training, maybe some sort of a VSL training, an evergreen training, depending on what your business is. It works. So let's talk about that. One thing that we had been trying to master for quite some time was the VSL. Now we've created loads and we're being persistent, right? But we didn't kind of nail the VSL model, right? We've had a few out there. When I say we haven't nailed it, it's not that we haven't made sales, but we haven't made from a VSL like millions and millions of sales a year. We've done it in other areas, right, through other strategies, but now that's a big opportunity for us that we're missing. So right now we're actually putting together, in fact, yesterday I recorded a very powerful VSL, and that was something that's on the cards for quite some time, and that was a big missed opportunity. So you think you got a VSL, a video sales letter. For some of you don't know what that is. So you know, sometimes when you go onto an online training and it's like an hour's training and it gives you the option to book a call. So that was a missed opportunity for us. So it's not a case of me just thinking about things to give to you. These are things that are actually my own things that are going on in my own business that I'm learning from and I'm having experience from. And this is what I'm sharing with you. So if I'm going through this situation, I'm sure many other people are too. You know, coaches, mentors can get stuck too, right? I have issues in my business that we have to work on, right? Luckily, we know we have a process in place that we know how to break past from here to there, right? So there's not anyone that doesn't go through business that doesn't have a challenge. So I want you to understand that every business owner, it doesn't matter what level they're at, are going to have challenges. Sometimes looking into someone's business from the outside, it might seem great. The person or the organization is doing great, making lots of sort of sales. So even if you look at some of the top marketers that you know online that run online businesses, I guarantee you too that they too have issues going on in their business. They too, but you don't see that, right? You don't see what happens behind the scenes. So I'm sure that you're facing things in your business right now, and maybe you're thinking, give me a break. Listen, this is a fun thing, right? Because breakthrough happens once you've had a challenge and you've broken through that. That's when the gates of abundance open up. That's when opportunities open up. So you've got to be aware. You've got to be aware of where am I actually missing an opportunity? It could be right in front of you. You could be staring in the face and you haven't acknowledged it because your mind is all over the place. Clarity of mind is so important. Having a clear mindset, spending time on yourself in silence is so important, because when you do that, you get downloads. You're silent because think of it this way. When your conscious mind's wide open, right, you've got all the traffic, all the noise that's happening. You're noticing everything, right? You don't have any time to think. You don't have any time to think. And thinking is really important. And even not thinking is important, right? Even more so, because when you're sitting in silence, let's say you're doing some meditation, you're quieting down all the outside influence, all the noise out there. So you're becoming one with yourself, one with the source. And that's when you're going to start getting these downloads, right? And ideas drop into you. So when you have an idea, write it down. Going back to what I just initially said, just write down an idea that you have. And then with every intention, action that idea. An idea without any action is pointless. You could be one of those people I believe I can make $1 million. I believe I can do this. But when you have an idea, you don't act on it. You don't have that inspired action. You don't take action. Then the universe can't respond to you with anything. And that's missed opportunity, right? How many missed opportunities have you had in the last 12 months? Because lack of action, lack of self-accountability. It's really important, right? When we talk about growing businesses, lots of people think about marketing. They think about lead generation. They think about sales processes, systems, CRM systems, like email sequences. But something before all of that comes in is actually identifying what it is that you want to do and acting, going for that one thing. Like I said, that one for me right now, it's direct mail campaign, doing a direct mail campaign. So we're going to sit down, put a nice a brochure together. It might be a postcard size, and really identify, hang on a minute, here's what I want to do. I want to do direct mail, but I don't know what I want to do on that direct mail campaign. For you that doesn't know what direct mail is when you have something through the post, right? Some like a brochure, it could be an envelope, it could be a postcard, to where it goes direct to through the letterbox, is physical. So now I know there's a great opportunity there, okay? But now we've got to like piece together like the 4 or 5 elements that's going to make that effective, that's going to make that go live. So we'll be working on that this week, all right? So I feel like a lot of people go on to the online space now, advertising online through Facebook ads, YouTube ads, PPC. But here's the thing. What about the people that you're going to miss if you don't contact them directly? About 6 months ago, I had a brochure, marketing brochure come through for an organization. They brought the data up, my details on the data, right? And it was like a brochure. It's like a glossy brochure, probably about 14 to 16 pages. And it was heavy, it's bulky. Have you ever had that when something comes through your letterbox and, you know, it's heavy, it's bulky, you're curious about what's in there? So I opened this brochure up, and it's all about marketing. I thought, this is so unique, this is so different, this is relevant to me. So they've obviously done their research. They've got a kind of an idea and understanding of what it is that I may be looking for, what I may be interested in, and they've directed that towards myself. Now it's very relevant to me. So I want you to think about how could you maybe tap into something like that for yourself, right? Because that is a missed opportunity. How many missed opportunities do you have? Get a pen and paper and write down where you feel there's a missed opportunity. I'll tell you a missed opportunity. This could be getting back to leads that didn't buy. There's a stat that says like most people buy around the 12th contact. How many people have you tried to contact, or maybe you've had an inbound lead, they've inquired about your product or service, and you've never got back to them just because they said no, all right, we'll get back to you. You never got back to them. I remember like hearing the phrase that the money's in the follow-up. And this is one thing that most people don't do. And we're like getting better at this, right? Having follow-ups, having more touch points. There's a missed opportunity for you right there, right? So go back. This could be a free coaching session for you, right? So you can go back and make a list of like 200 leads that you spoken to, you had initial contact with, they didn't buy. Make lots of contact with them over and over again. And you watch, eventually some of those might buy. Like imagine 5 or 10% of those leads actually buy, right? So that's a missed opportunity. So how many other missed opportunities? Maybe like activating that ads campaign that you've been thinking about doing. Maybe you don't even run any ads. Maybe that's a missed opportunity, right? Not even putting any money back into the machine. How many business owners I've spoken to that don't even fucking market? They don't spend a penny, a dime on marketing. They're simply relying on inbound leads, word of mouth. So I think that's a very dangerous way to try to build your business, relying on word of mouth. So go find your unidentified missed opportunities, right? Those missed opportunities could be your biggest opportunities. And that's when you're going to start to really crush it and make a difference into your revenue, right? So you got to be aware of this. You got to be open-minded, and you got to be willing to get uncomfortable, because most people want to have all the success without getting in the comfort zone. So go find your biggest missed opportunities.